The Nintendo Switch is well into its 6th year as the current gen console for Nintendo, and even video game consoles in their prime tend to have an expectancy of 5 to 7 years before their next generation is released. So with that in mind, I think it's time to talk about the successor to the Nintendo Switch, the reports circling around it, and what I personally would like to see. Hey everyone, it's Yggdrasiel and welcome back to another video, and today we are going to be discussing everything related to the sequel to the Nintendo Switch, which for the purpose of this video we will of course be calling the Switch 2. I want to preface this by saying that most of what I'm going to be covering in the reports department are just that, just reports and not anything official, and that everything should be taken with a big grain of salt. With that out there, let's get stuck right in. Let's start with perhaps the most common question being asked: when will the next console be out? Let's assume that Nintendo will be relying on the same strategy that they used in announcing and marketing the Nintendo Switch 4, Switch 2. There were 6 months between the announcement and release date, so let's argue that should Nintendo host a Direct in September, the earliest we could possibly see Switch 2 would be in February of 2024. Now, hear me out, I know that Q1 of 2024 is a hard sell, even for me really, but there is a rumor to back this up, and we have Chinese investment site Money DJ to thank for the tip-off. According to a report they published recently, Hongjun, a Chinese manufacturing company that has been producing the metals used in Nintendo products for years, well, their production outlook for the second half of this year is going to be peaking, and they believe that this is due to a large quantity of metals and parts being processed for Switch 2. Money DJ also went on to personally state that Nintendo's current plan is to get the Switch 2 out in the first quarter of 2024, but this part is at least contraindicated by Nintendo President Shuntaro Furukawa's own statement back in May saying there won't actually be any plans to release hardware during the next fiscal year, running up to March 31st. I would personally like to throw in my own 2 cents, and that is, of course, 1, plans can change, and 2, Money DJ also has a strong track record when it comes to big Nintendo announcements. For one, they were the first to correctly provide details for the Switch's production back in 2016. Even if Q1 is a no-go, I can personally see a release in the second quarter working very well for Nintendo, especially if they start with a strong kid-friendly lineup right around May or June in time for summer vacation. We also know that dev kits and test models are out there already, which is another part of why I feel so confident for the first half of 2024 to see Switch 2 be released. There are 2 prominent reports, one from Spanish leaker and Weedle, who was the source that tipped off Metroid Dread before that game's announcement, saying that Spanish studio Mercury Steam, known for their work on 2D Metroid games, has received a dev kit for the next console. If you aren't however confident in what a leaker has to say, well, maybe you'll feel more so with another source, and this is Activision Blizzard King CEO Bobby Kotick. While most people generally don't like this man, myself included, there's no denying that his position affords him a lot of insider knowledge, and during a part of the Microsoft FTC trial that was up until recently underway, Mr. Kotick had to provide some emails of his, including one with Nintendo President Furukawa, where he shared his optimism of the next Nintendo console's specifications to be more closely aligned to the PS4 and Xbox One generation. While Kotick himself said he doesn't have any exact info on the specs, he was seemingly very confident in his expectations, and you can argue that it stands to reason that he, as a strong business insider, would have already seen or experimented with a Switch 2 dev kit. And yes, I know that being in line with PS4 doesn't sound promising, but I would like to remind everyone that Nintendo seldom ever strives for most current gen of hardware fidelity in the bulk of their products, and they usually make the most of what they have, much more than can be said for Game Freak at least. Moving on to hardware then, there aren't any strong rumors going on right now, but I'm going to go ahead and base a few assumptions. Now I'm going to assume that Nintendo is going to stick to their guns, and that is Nvidia chips and OLED displays. The current Switch OLED model is still going about the rounds, and while there are no rumors to support it, an OLED panel baseline would be a welcome starting point for Switch 2's first generation. However, this one at least does have a rumor going against it by the Sharp company, which makes the current generation of Nintendo Switch displays, stating that they are working on a new LCD panel product for a new gaming console that's already well into R&D. This one brings up a bit of back and forth, as OLED screens can hit 120Hz while LCD panels can achieve higher refresh rates, and of course Sharp could just be talking about some other entire new product, stating that it was again just, a new gaming console, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be Switch 2. I'm personally on the OLED side of this discussion. I think it's what makes sense, and again, it would be a welcome starting baseline for the next console. CPUs and GPUs then, they don't really have any rumors floating around, at least that I'm aware of, but if we were going to take Mr. Kotick's words with any lick of salt, I just hope that Nintendo chooses to make choices that can at least ensure the same longevity and relevance as the Nintendo Switch is having. Other things to say in terms of specs, while none of these have rumors, I do have some hopes, albeit rather lofty ones. Now please hear me out. I would at least hope for a better Wi-Fi system in place with perhaps 5G support, and also a longer lasting battery that could be at least 1.5 to 2 times that of the Switch model. If they also really want to impress a lot of people, I hope they're considering using internal SSD storage. Micro SD cards and the Switch's own native 32 gigs of eMMC flash memory are significantly overcut by the current value that an internal SSD can provide in terms of loading time and storage space. If they choose to pair this with an improvement in RAM, which the Switch is only capable of supporting 3.2 gigs of, by the way, game devs would have a much greater opportunity to enhance the scopes of their games. I mean, imagine what an internal powerhouse of a studio like Monolith Soft could do if Nintendo let the shackles be released. The cost for all these things then, while I expect Nintendo to start off at about $350 to account for inflation and changes in technology, I personally would not mind eking out just a bit more and paying $400 if Nintendo is willing to go a bit above their usual budget for a little bit more sustainable tech. Lastly, let's discuss backwards compatibility. While physical game cards have been doing wonderfully on the Switch, the ever-growing volume of digital product sales has many people, including myself, worried with regards to backwards compatibility. Thankfully, Nintendo President Furukawa posted an official statement back on June 26 that alleviates a lot of my concern, going on to state that Nintendo is planning to ensure a smooth transition for customers from the Nintendo Switch to the next generation through use of the Nintendo account system. Now there are approximately 290 million accounts between console and mobile, and this is incredibly important because when you think of your Nintendo account, you think what it is tied to, and that's all of your digital game purchases. And also, if you're a Nintendo Switch Online member, that means access to, one, of course, continued use of the online pay-to-play model, but it also likely means the same model for all of their classic console titles that they continue to support and put on the Switch. If I had to take all of this and then go one step further, I'd at least also imply that this suggests with digital backwards compatibility, physical card compatibility will also be supported, which would be excellent as I am personally an avid supporter of physical over digital, and with the Switch's incredibly robust and expansive selection of games, I'd be sorely disappointed if I couldn't bring them into the next generation with me. But with all that said, that is where we are going to be ending this discussion for now. To wrap up, in summary, the rumor mill is beginning to churn out with more and more veracity, and a Switch successor is seemingly becoming more apparent, with some news insiders expecting a release in the first or second quarter of next year. Dev kits are already out there and has the likes of Activision Blizzard King CEO very optimistic, and Nintendo President Furukawa has gone on record to say that they are heavily invested in ensuring a smooth transition to the next gen of console, keeping in place the current Nintendo account system. All of this is shaping up to be fairly good news, and it also implies we could be having the Switch 2 announced as early as September. Now that's all for me, but please let me know what are your thoughts down below. What do you hope to see in the next console, and when do you think players will have it in their hands? Also, if you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and following my channel, where I'll continue to make videos on topics and games that I am passionate about. And as always, I hope that you all have a great day.